What's up, Nickel City Mafia? This is your host, Chris Caldwell, with a Week 12 recap of fantasy football and a look ahead to Week 13 and fantasy football playoffs. Me and my co host, Jeremy, will be right with you after this short intro. What's up, Nickel City Mafia? 12 weeks in the books, and we are ready to talk about it. Jeremy, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. I've got W's in most of my leagues the last few weeks. Things turned around just in time for the playoffs. I'm happy. How about you?
Yeah, I'm starting to catch fire a little bit. I feel like this is the time of year the teams that are really well built, as the bye weeks are really hitting hard, you're going to see kind of the cream rise to the top. The teams that are built better, they have more depth. Those are the teams that are going to really start making their way up the rankings. You're going to find out who's your contenders, who's your pretenders. So we'll get into that. I mean, it's week 13 coming up. Most fantasy leagues have playoffs in, what is it, week
15.
15, 16,
Yep.
17.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crunch time. We have 2 more weeks before fantasy playoffs starts, so it's now or never. Pay attention to your trade deadlines, and you got to do it right now. So, any other preparations you have for the people?
Yeah, actually, you saw one of the leagues we're both in. We start defenses, and I prepped my playoff defense. I know I'm making the playoffs in that league. This is not good right now. I've been streaming, and I looked ahead, look at what defenses are playing. Easy teams weeks 15, 16, 17. The Jets have a pretty good schedule. They're a pretty good defense, so I snagged them up, and I'm saving them for the playoffs. So that's
Nice.
one strategy I like to do.
Yeah, good move, dude. I like that strategy. You gotta start looking ahead. I mean, I see a lot of teams out there that have at least two defenses, sometimes three, and you gotta really start looking at fantasy matchups. I'm like speaking. I don't know why we're going all in on defenses right now, but I'm in a league where I have Ravens defense, who's number 2 or 3 on the year, but I'm
Yeah,
considering dropping them because their matchups from here on out are just the worst, like
not
absolute
great.
garbage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you don't really care what's already happened. You have to pay attention to what's about to happen. So that's what we'll focus on this show, getting you ready for your playoffs, making sure you make it in. So um, without further ado, let's get into our game recaps. We have 5 game recaps from week 12 for you this week, focused on the Sunday slate since it was Thanksgiving week. So those games are long over with. So we'll focus on the Sunday slate. Those that are hanging out, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we will get to them right away. So first game, we're going to go over the Colts and the Bucks. So the Colts hang on and win this one, behind good old Jonathan Taylor, who's now looking like, did I see
Broken
he's an
thumb.
IR candidate?
So he's a broken thumb. They're saying 3 weeks, which for a broken thumb, like that sounds kind of crazy to me that he's like gonna come back. But they are like they can make the playoffs. So, but it just means that Zach Moss is the number one pickup if he is somehow available anywhere. He needs to be grabbed right back up again because we saw what it was like without the JT, and it was Zach Moss show going crazy. Um,
Right. Yeah, Zach Moss has proven it's not
yeah,
just one week, it's not just 2 weeks, it's 4 or 5 weeks now that when JT's not there, he is an absolute bell cow, and he doesn't just get the volume, he produces too. So Zach Moss looking to be a league winner, not only earlier in the year, but also late in the year too. So hopefully, if you had him, you cut him when JT came back. I traded him in one of my dynasty leagues, so I'm pretty bummed about that. But I thought, there was no more need for him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me what else you saw from this game other than, the Jonathan Taylor had a really good game. He's now out for 4 games. What else? What else went on?
Rashad White still has a solid game. He takes pretty much every single carry. um, and I just think he's like coming into form. He's going to keep getting better. The only downside is it's Tampa Bay and they're not very good. So, who knows how he's going to do the rest of the year, but he's at least the guy there. We've seen that. Mike Evans has a monster game, which like is Mike Evans every like 5 games he goes crazy, right, or something like that. And then Godwin has a quiet game, and the rest of the guys kind of have a quiet game. Baker is like serviceable, I guess, if it's like a super flex or 2 quarterback league, um, and that's it from the Buck side of things. And then on the Colts side of things, Michael Pittman's the man. He's back again. He's good. Josh Downs getting a lot of work. He's still, I think Downs is startable every week at this point. What do you
Yeah,
think?
he had a couple bad weeks there, but he was dealing with a knee injury. But I think he's put that in the rear view, and he's back. He gets peppered with targets when he's healthy.
Yeah, he had 13 in this game, tied Pittman. So you got to think whenever you see a receiver get that many targets, he's like you can start him, especially with the talent there. Um, yeah, other than that, it was I wasn't sure who was going to win this game. Honestly, I was like, they're both not looking great, but the Colts toughed it out and took a W.
I'm a little surprised. I had to look it up because you brought up, how good Michael Pittman's been. I'm a little surprised he's only wide receiver 16 on the year. It feels like he's been better than that, right?
I think though where you drafted him, you're still happy because he kind of like fell a bit. I think with like everything going on, question marks around the Colts and stuff like that. Who knows with the rookie quarterback there? He was kind of falling a lot in a lot of redraft in a lot of drafts this year. So I think wherever you got him, he's outperforming where you got him, and
Yeah,
he's going to
yeah.
continue to just do better. So, yeah, I think he's one of the guys that you're happy you got. There's a few situations this year where like people got things wrong, and I think the big one I was just like reading an article about like everybody got Houston wrong, myself included, with like just that offense being fantasy gold out of nowhere.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good segue because the Tampa Indy game, not a whole lot of takeaways. The
Yeah,
last one I'll have is Chris Godwin's just kind of turned into a dud. He's just having a bad year. Baker doesn't look at him like an alpha. Mike Evans is clearly that guy. Rashad White's probably the second option in line there. So Godwin just having a down year, but yeah, excited to get over to our next game. Jaguars and Texans. Like you said, everyone had this wrong. Everyone thought the Texans might be vying for another top pick in the NFL draft. Couldn't be farther from the truth. They're firmly in the playoff hunt. CJ Stroud is pacing the NFL record for passing yards by a rookie.
yeah.
Just absolutely unreal. Tell me about what
He
we've
has
seen
to be
from
rookie of
Houston.
the year, right? Like that's got to be like the easiest bet. I should have checked if he's like the favorite now, but he's got to
I
be.
mean, I don't know who else it could be. I mean, Bijan is not having a
He's
year
doing well,
worthy
but yeah, he's
of.
not having a historic year or anything. Yeah,
No, I mean, I guess maybe someone else you would consider is
Tank
Tank
Dell.
Dell, right?
Yeah,
Tank
just
Dell in
crazy.
that offense.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of who else it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But no, if he's gonna set the NFL record for passing yards as a rookie, it's a slam dunk. I mean, the guy's absolutely amazing, and the one knock that people really had on him, he has the height, he has the pedigree, he has the arm strength. Was people said, he's not mobile. He's gonna be like offers zero rushing upside. Guy had 47 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown in this game, so he's doing that too.
Yeah. I mean, also you got to be psyched about your boy Nico just being awesome. Like he was banged up a little bit, but he came back this game and just like showed out. He's the alpha there, but it's kind of like a 1A 1B with him and Tank Dell almost now, right? It's you can start both of them and be happy. The other side of the ball, I think Calvin Ridley finally showing off. A couple weeks in a row of really good numbers from him, going crazy. Hopefully it continues. Because if you took Calvin Ridley, you've been kind of I mean, I have him in a couple leagues. I've been disappointed up until the last couple weeks. Like I kept thinking it's going to turn around, it's going to turn around, and it kept not turning around. But the last couple weeks, it's kind of turned around, and they're using them, I guess maybe in like a different way, and it's a better area of the field for him to get passes and make plays. So
Yeah, Calvin Ridley has 5 more fantasy points on the year than Christian Kirk. So they're neck and neck. I feel like that was a kind of a most people would agree, right? In pre drafts before the season, Ridley was taken a round or two or three ahead of Kirk, right?
oh man, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, for sure, he was a
Yeah,
higher prospect. Yeah,
yeah. So he was trailing Kirk for most of the year, but Ridley finally taking off the past couple weeks. Um, but just to go back real quick to Houston, so are we now 100% sure that Nico Collins is not a fluke?
yeah,
It's happened enough times, right?
no,
That it's
he's solid.
okay.
Yeah,
So in like dynasty formats, keeper formats, he's gonna be top 15, top 20 wide receiver heading into next year.
yeah. I think between like the 15 to 20 mark is probably where he'll end up. There's always been people that like him, a little better than that, and I think Tank Dell's probably right up there too. In that same, he's probably top 20 guy as well. And if they keep this offense going, it's going to be great. I'm interested to see like looking to next year, if like Houston drafts a young running back, like if that rolls into this offense because Singletary, he's not really going to do it. They don't like Pierce, or Pierce is just not good now. I'm not really sure what's going on there, um, but that's something to look into.
That's a little odd, yeah, that they kind
Yeah,
of just dismissed Damian Pierce like that. Maybe it's still a little bit of an injury thing, but Houston,
could be.
they have to be just the story of the year. D'Amico Ryan's has to be in top 2 or 3 for Coach of the Year. Shocking, like you
Yeah,
said, that their offense is so good. D'Amico Ryan's, as you know, defensive-minded coach from the Shanahan culture over there in San Francisco. So just awesome stuff that he's doing with this team, and they're definitely like the feel-good story of the year, in my opinion. Um, so before we move on from this game, Travis Etienne worried at all?
I
Kind
mean,
of a bum game here.
a bum game, but he still gets you like 10 points ish, right? A little more. So it's not you're not like too mad at him. But he hasn't been the star we all thought he was going to be, and he was where he was drafted.
Running back
No, I
three on the
think
year.
yeah, yeah. Okay, then yeah, he is still the star. That's fine. No, a down game for him, but it doesn't matter when he's getting all the carries. He's getting passing work. That's what you want. So it's fine. Not worried about it at all.
Yeah, so here's why I bring that up. So his bye was in week 9. I'll read you the 4 games before his bye. And this is in half PPR. 34, 22, 21, 24 points. Since the bye, which you think running back after bye, maybe refresh the legs, do even better. 5, 7, 10. So I don't know if it's a change in philosophy. Maybe their O line's not clicking quite as well. But Travis Etienne, we'll call it 3 down weeks in a row. Heading into the playoffs, I own him everywhere. Getting a
I
little bit
know.
nervous, but
Yeah. He'll
yeah,
bounce
okay,
back. I think he'll
okay.
bounce. He's still
Too
getting
good, too
everything.
good of a player
He'll
not to
get
bounce
into a
back.
good he'll get into a good game, role, and just he'll ball out. It'll be all right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, last note from this game. Evan Ingram just continues to be really solid, middle of the road, tight end one, now
Yeah.
2 years in a row. Yeah, not fluky at all. He's that guy. He's super solid in PPR formats, really racking up the volume there. Led the team in targets, so no worries whatsoever with Evan Ingram going forward.
How about Trevor
Okay,
Lawrence? How you feeling about him? People have been letting him slide a little bit in, like, I would say, the rankings. He's more of like a bottom QB1 lately, and I think he's still great. He still rushes not as much as he used to, but this game he doesn't really. Uh, and he's still outperforming what everybody expects.
so I'll say his last 2 games, week 11 and week 12, were his 2 highest fantasy outputs of the year. So he's trending in the right direction.
He's slinging it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, often see as Trevor Lawrence goes, Travis Etienne does not, right? So they kind of changing of the guard there.
Yeah.
But
Just needs more
Trevor Lawrence,
passes. It's fine.
he's QB 15 on the year. I guess I would have to say for where people drafted him, he was probably more in like the QB 7 to 10 range. So you're probably like not quite getting back your investment there, but not a huge bust by any measure.
I will say they do have a difficult road ahead. They go Bengals, Browns, Ravens, Bucks before they get the Panthers in what would be the fantasy championship. So if
Bengals,
you can hang on,
Browns,
yeah.
Ravens.
Bengals have
Yeah,
actually a decent defense. Browns have a great defense. Ravens have a great defense. Bucks have a pretty good defense.
that's
That's
tough.
a rough run there for Jags. But their offense has put up points every week. So
I keep getting a couple complaints about my volume here, so let me try to troubleshoot a little bit. Can you hear me all right?
yeah, just hold the mic like real close. Get
I've never had
sexy
it.
with it.
I usually don't even hold it this close. So, yeah, sorry about
Yeah.
that, guys. I will try to fix it. Let me know if it sounds any better. I'm trying to troubleshoot a little bit here. But so while I work on this mic for a second, Jeremy, why don't you tell me, is there like a couple QBs you have in mind? We just talked about how Trevor Lawrence doesn't have great matchups the rest of the way. This show is going to be about preparing for fantasy playoffs. Who might you try to flip him for leading up to the playoffs? If you're a T Law owner, he's your QB1 and you're going to make the playoffs. What are you going to try to do there?
That's tough. Honestly, I think if I had him, I'm just sticking with him. You're hoping he's gonna have to. He's just gonna be keep slinging the ball, and you're gonna be okay. Because I don't really know who I would. Because anyone you're gonna trade him away for is it, teams are gonna want too much for the guy. The only thing I would say is find a team that's maybe not like last in your league because that's almost like collusion, but
Mm-hmm.
find a team that's like on the edge of making the playoffs and see if you can offer them like T Law plus somebody else for another one of the top guys. Like CJ Stroud would be a good one, or if one of those guys, if they have a Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or something, and they could use an extra starter in their lineup, see if you can package together a quarterback uh, trade there. But that one can be tough. Trading quarterbacks is a little hard sometimes because people don't want to give up their guy.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I'm thinking you're probably stuck with them as well. Um, hmm. I'm trying to look for. So
It's not
you're
a
not gonna.
bad thing though. Kyler Murray, maybe I guess, would be in the same range as him. And that for those two, I would probably say it's a toss up who scores the most points the rest of the way.
Yeah, working on it, Mike. Sorry, bud. I don't
But
know
while we're
which
talking
one.
about trade deadline trades, another guy I've been looking at is DeAndre Swift for the Eagles. He's he had like an okay game, and then he's got a couple hard matchups coming up. He's got Niners and he's got Dallas. But after that, his listen to his playoff schedule. So weeks 15, 16, 17, he gets Seattle, the Giants, and the Cardinals.
Hmm.
So he's primed to help you win the playoffs. So he's a guy like if you want to wait a week or two, the problem is you might miss your trade deadline for the league, depending on which league your league trade deadline is. Uh, but if you wait, maybe he has a couple more bad games because he's playing some good defenses, and you can scoop him up just in time for the playoffs. I think he could help you win everything for sure.
Yeah, I think most of my redraft leagues, the trade deadline was either last week or it's this week. So dynasty leagues, you probably have some time
Yeah.
to keep trading, but a redraft league, this is probably the last week, or you might have one more week after this to get trading. All right, so I still have it pulled up because I was looking at T Law, ranked QB 15 on the year. There's just a couple quarterbacks that I'm just mind blown. Sam Howell's QB4.
Yeah.
Sam
Crushing it,
Howell's
dude.
QB4 on the year.
Crushing it.
That's crazy. But even a bigger surprise than Sam Howell QB4 is Josh Dobbs is QB10. I mean,
That's probably going to keep sinking, right? He looked
yeah,
just Minnesota looked so bad. We're not covering that game today, but man, I'm worried about Minnesota after that game, right? Like
Hmm.
every player involved, I'm worried about. I love Addison. You got to think Justin Jefferson's coming back after the bye this week. Like,
Yeah, I mean
you think they
the
got a
bye
shot at the playoffs? He's got to come back.
the bye couldn't come at a better time. Jefferson will be back. Um, Madison will be healthy, and they have a decision to make at QB. Right? Are they going to stick with Dobbs, or are they going to go with Jaron Hall, their rookie,
Or Mullins,
Jared, or
Jared. Yeah,
Nick
yeah,
Mullins,
yeah.
or Nick
Jared. Yeah,
Mullins, who's
yeah.
been on IR. So Nick Mullins has had a couple good games in his career. So to me, it's kind of like a three-way QB battle, and it's during the bye week. It should be interesting to see how that works out.
They said they're gonna see how practice goes, and the coach will pick one. And it's like it's kind of crazy because Dobbs looked really good, but last week, whew, that was rough.
Yeah, everyone has one bad week, but four interceptions against no touchdowns. Yikes.
Mm.
All right. Well, yeah, sorry for the technical troubles. Hopefully, y'all can hear me a little bit better by now. Thank you guys for coming out and hanging out with us. We're Nickel City Mafia. We recap fantasy football every week. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, join our Discord. The info for all that stuff is down in the comments. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to ask us at any time. We'll stop what we're doing, answer your fantasy football question or just football in general. It doesn't have to be fantasy football. We'll talk about anything.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so on to the next game. We will cover the Chiefs um, beat the Raiders on the road pretty handily here, and the Chiefs keep pace near the top of the AFC. It's going to come be a crazy finish for the number one seed in the AFC between Ravens, Chiefs, Jaguars, and Dolphins. They're all pretty much tied at the top. So, yeah, what were your main takeaways from this game?
the ref screwed me on some fantasy points. This was like my main takeaway. I don't know if so. Anybody who's watching the game, there was one play where Mahomes threw a touchdown to Pacheco, and Pacheco runs it in, and they called him short at the goal line, and they immediately show the replay. And he clearly crosses the goal line with the ball, and Andy Reid does not take the time to like challenge it. He just runs a play, and Pacheco runs it in instead of Mahomes getting that passing touchdown. And I was like,
Nah,
ah, you
killed you.
gotta hate it when the fantasy points go away. Uh, but otherwise, there was also like a play last week where Mahomes had a passing touchdown called back that should have been a touchdown, or I don't know, something weird like that where Mahomes should be, should have a little more points than he does. But the Chiefs have a much better game than they've kind of had recently, which is great for them. They're getting back on track. Rashee Rice is the huge takeaway, right? That's like the biggest thing here is after this game, all the targets he sees, 8 for 107 and a touchdown. He's You can start him every week. I probably wouldn't have started him last week, to be honest. If he was sitting on my bench, I probably would have left him on my bench, and he would have put up all those points on my bench. But he's startable now. He's the number one guy behind Kelsey or next to Kelsey,
Hmm.
right?
Agreed. I was going to say the main thing for me, which is great for fantasy, is, we kind of bitch and complain every week about Kansas City, best offense in the league or second
Yeah.
best offense in the league, maybe to Miami, but they have Mahomes and Kelsey and Pacheco, and that's it. And they can't really be trusted because 15, 16 different people touch the ball. That was not the case this week, and that's why we love to see it. More condensed targets means more points for everyone. So, yeah, great week for fantasy offense for the Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco just quietly grinding out an outstanding season. I'm going to see what his rank is on the year.
Did you
Um,
watch any of the
RB12.
CEH carries?
Were they just
Just
awful?
awful. They put him at the goal line, gets stuffed. And then I think he gets stuffed twice in a row, if I remember correctly. They put Pacheco in, Pacheco goes right into the end zone. I don't know if the line likes Pacheco better or what the deal is. CEH is done. I don't think he needs to be on anyone's team for any reason. It's not going to happen for him. They tried to use him a little bit, and I was just like, he's clearly just nothing there.
Can we talk
The
about
talent's
how
gone.
the Chief? I don't know if the talent was ever there. Can we talk about how the Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire over the following
Jonathan
players:
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers. Should I keep going? uh,
Well, in the case of J.K. Dobbins, at least CH is healthy,
yeah, you never
able to
know what
play
would happen
football.
on a you
Yeah,
never know what happened on a different team, but
yeah.
yeah, just from what they've looked like when they've played, CH has clearly been far and away the worst player in that
Yeah.
draft class.
It seems like whenever we talk about running backs, they should be drafted in the second or third rounds, and teams should never pay them. It's like sad to say, right? Because we want the great running backs to get paid. We want them to be amazing and be these superstars. But we were just talking about the Colts earlier. Look at the Colts. If they hadn't paid Jonathan Taylor, they would have been just fine with Zach Moss going crazy all year.
Yeah.
And they paid Jonathan Taylor. He's hurt and he's out. It's really tough. And like I said, I feel for our star running back guys that we want to get paid and stuff. It feels like the NFL should be shifting towards this. Let's draft and get rookie contract running backs all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you do you do feel like there's almost like a vendetta against running backs, right? Because they just run them into the ground, they run them hard, and then they say, "Well, we drafted you when you were 21, now you're 25. I don't care about you anymore." So people get a rookie contract, which is not a whole lot, and and then they get kicked to the curb. So I don't know if there's something you can do about that. I mean, I know running back's not the only position that it happens, but it's definitely happens the most there. I don't know.
I
But
think
yeah,
for fantasy purposes, it just goes to show there is a cliff that once the running back hits that cliff, they're not going to be there anymore. It's tough to see like the older running back still doing well. Kamara's a little bit of an exception, and Singletary still has some good games. Right, those are kind of the older guys right now, still competing. But anyway, we can go back to the Chiefs Raiders. We didn't talk about Josh Jacobs continuing to be awesome at fantasy football, uh, taking all of the carries, getting some receptions, just putting up points.
yeah. Running back
Solid.
five, running back. Well, that's in standard. He's running back five, running back four in half
Yeah,
PPR. People were worried about him at the beginning of the year. He started the year with 8 points, 7 points, 9 points, but since then he's just on an absolute tear.
yeah.
Nothing to worry about. 2 years in a row, Josh Jacobs has absolutely smashed and
Yep.
won people all the money. I think it's time to recognize him as a top 5 or 6, fantasy running back because he is. Got a question here. Fellas, y'all like Charbonnet over Brian Robinson this week? I'll just say before I start to look at this, Brian Robinson just doesn't have a good matchup. He's at home, but they're playing the Dolphins. The game script is going to be terrible for like a grinder type of a
Yeah,
running
but
back.
Charbonnet has Dallas.
Oof.
I'm going Brian Robinson here. I think it's very, very close. I have them like right next to each other. I'm going to give Brian Robinson an edge just because Zach Charbonnet, we haven't seen it yet for him. He hasn't exploded yet. I'm a little worried about Seattle offense. I expected them to be way better fantasy wise than they have been this year. I would stick to Brian Robinson, but I'm also you have to understand Bryce. I'm also a Washington homer, so
Yeah, so here's my thought process. The players' talent and their team aside, just like game script.
yeah,
So Kenneth Walker is doubtful. I heard that he's just not going to play. So
no, yeah,
Charbonnet is the lone running back there. So you have Charbonnet on the turf against Dallas, negative game script. Charbonnet receiving back by trade versus Brian Robinson with a healthy Antonio Gibson in a negative greens game script against the Dolphins. I mean, they're probably pretty close in the ranking, but if you're in a PPR league, I'm just gonna go with the safety of Charbonnet just because I would bet my mortgage he gets 3 or 4 or more catches.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it. But it's probably pretty close, which is why you're asking the question. But for me, if Gibson plays, Gibson has been getting 3, 4, 5 catches a week. Game script's gonna suck.
Gibson's still banged up. Game script might suck, but they use Brian Robinson in the passing game now a little bit. I I like I said, I that's a really tough decision, Bryce. I think going, it sucks to lose Aaron Jones and Kenneth. That is rough, but you're lucky to have your backups as Brian Robinson and Zach Charbonnet because it could be a lot worse, like a lot worse.
Oh, for
I
sure.
have them just neck and neck for this week in my rankings, and I'm going to lean Brian Robinson on this one. I think he's mostly because we've seen him put the points up before, whereas Zach Charbonnet, we haven't really seen him do it yet, and that's why I'm leaning a little bit more him.
You want to hear something that's gonna shock you?
Go for it.
Brian Robinson is RB5 on the year in half
Hmm.
PPR.
My favorite, somebody on Twitter, I wish I could remember who said it. They said if you drafted the wrong B Robinson in the first round this year, you're very happy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Wow,
because he's played
crazy,
better than Bijan.
crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Bryce, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ask more questions. We're hanging out for a while, so we always appreciate the back and forth. Let us know if you have anything else for us. So where were we at? We were on Chiefs Raiders.
Yeah.
I think we kind of covered everything there. My last question for you is like, what's your level of confidence moving forward with Devonte Adams? Because I don't own him. I have 8 fantasy teams. I have 0 Devonte Adams, so he's like out of sight, out of mind for me. Um, so I just want to know, like, how do you feel about him? I mean, is he a no doubt about it every week start because of his pedigree, or what do you think there?
So that's what I was gonna say. If you have him, you have to start him. It's like it's unfortunate because he's playing. I don't know if he's playing badly, or they're just not utilizing him enough. Jacoby Myers is getting all the looks. I'm not totally sure what's going on there. I mean, they got the same amount of targets this game. It maybe the offense just is clearly not great. Um, but you have to start him every week. I When you're ranking them, I almost think like you can rank Myers and him next to each other at this point, and maybe Myers is a better start. It's rough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jacoby Myers is wide receiver 19 on the year. Devonte Adams is wide receiver 13 on the year. But
yeah.
Jacoby Myers has missed 1 week due to injury, so probably pretty similar when it comes to points per game there. Um, yeah, it's shaky. Wide receiver 13 on the year, we're acting like we're all upset. That's still pretty good, but
Yeah.
when you hear Devonte Adams, you're used to top 3 production, so a little bit of a fall from grace there. Okay, Bryce. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, man, and thanks for the other question. Bryce asks Deontay Johnson or Adam Thielen at flex. What do you got, Jeremy?
Oh man, that's tough. I wish I had more Adam Thielen this year because he's just been blowing up the fantasy scene, and I have zero of him. But between him and Deontay, I feel like there's like a lot of anti Deontay energy right now. That clip of him like doing nothing on that one play last week, just like kind of standing there, and the Steelers' offense is just it's hard to trust who's going to score points. And I think
But
with
dude, this past
Thielen,
week, most points of the season, most yards of the season, they went off.
yeah, but with Thielen, like even though they're playing Tampa Bay, I think he's just gonna get all the looks and passes. So I would go Thielen there. I think again I think it's a little close, but I have Thielen as comfortably ahead of Deontay.
Yeah. Man, this is just like a crap fest. Like I don't want to start either of them. Um, Thielen's just probably the safer play, but dude, watching Carolina is just like gouging your eyes out. It is like so hard to watch them play.
Yeah,
But
it's
Pitt's
rough.
Pitt's kind of been the same way. Um, I am gonna agree with you on Thielen. I think it's super close, but I'll lean Thielen. But it's because I think George Pickens has a huge game this week.
Yeah,
Um, Arizona sucks, dude.
I think I'd start Thielen over Pickens or Deontay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So you're kind of down on Pittsburgh offense still.
yeah. It's hard to trust which one of them is. I think one of them will have a good game. I don't know which one it's going to be, and I know Thielen's gonna have a good game. And he's saying throwing Amari Cooper
He
in.
says or throwing. The answer is never
I'd
a Cleveland Brown. Yeah, no,
not right now, dude.
no.
Joe Flacco might
Joe,
be playing quarterback for Cleveland. Yeah,
let's
Joe
go.
Flacco might be playing quarterback. You don't want to even mess with Amari Cooper this week. If we see like a Flacco to Cooper connection, I don't know, but no, Thielen, I would go Thielen comfortably there. Yeah,
Yeah. So those that don't
Joe
know,
Flacco.
I'm a big Baltimore. I live in Baltimore, a big Baltimore Ravens fan. My boy Joe Flacco back with the back in the starting role for Cleveland, it seems this week. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, Amari Cooper is probably a hard no for me. Although he has to throw to someone, right?
yeah.
Um, no, I'm very anti Cleveland offense. They're probably the worst offense in the league at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not
Jerome
starting.
Ford. Jerome Ford is startable. I think
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, you and I met Joe Flacco in Denver after they won
I
the Super
remember
Bowl.
that. Yep, the
Yeah.
game after the Super Bowl, after the
Yeah.
yeah, he's
When
very
Peyton
tall.
Manning threw the most touchdown passes in one game. Yeah, that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
That
Ravens
was
got
rough.
absolutely
That
boat
was rough.
raced
That was rough.
by the Broncos. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bryce, thanks for the question. Jeremy and I are agreeing on Adam Thielen over Deontay Johnson and Amari Cooper. Okay, so let's go on to the next game. Um, Nickel City Mafia's hometown Bills lose
Rough.
an absolute
Oh,
heartbreaker.
man.
Likely the game of the year or
All of America was rooting for the Bills, not just the Bills
top
fans.
three game of the year
Oh,
here. Bills take one on the chin in Philly and just absolutely waste a hell of a game from Josh Allen. Um,
this could be a
it
Super Bowl rematch. Like, there's a chance. The Bills catch fire the next couple weeks, next few weeks.
Bills have an uphill climb to make the playoffs. I don't know where that percentage stands right now, but man, like they are such an exciting team.
Yeah.
But just keep losing some close ones, so it's tough to watch lately. But tell me what you saw from these two quarterbacks. This is quarterback one and quarterback two in fantasy football on the year, and they both put on a show.
So every week we do this, we're like, oh yeah, Josh Allen has a great fantasy week. Jalen Hurts has a great fantasy week. They run for a bunch of yards. They get some rushing touchdowns. They both have two rushing touchdowns. I mean, Allen throws for two. Hurts throws for three. It's they're both fantasy monsters. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's I loved Pat Mahomes as like the QB1. I think no, I said did I say Hurts or Mahomes
You
at
were
the beginning of the
Hurts.
season? I was
You were
Hurts. Okay.
Hurts. Yeah.
So, but I think Mahomes second, and then Allen third, and I was wrong. It's Hurts and Allen, and then Mahomes is like a little below, just because they're just absolutely crushing it for fantasy purposes. They're exciting to watch. They're getting in the end zone every single week on their own. Um, both the offenses are pretty electric. It was cool to see this game. I thought it was the primetime game. I forgot it was like the 4 o'clock game, and the Ravens had the
It felt
primetime
like a
game.
primetime game, didn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
it did. It did. And I guess it gets dark earlier too, but it was just, man, it was a fun game to watch. I am really sad that the Eagles won. I was rooting hard for the Bills. But like I said, I think if if the Bills can catch fire, make the playoffs, and make a run, this could be a matchup
Yeah.
in Super Bowl.
So so
Sorry, dude.
so Josh Allen has, from my calculation, this was the number one fantasy game from a quarterback on the year. A little over about no, sorry, the number two fantasy game. CJ Stroud, when he threw a
Yeah.
bunch of touchdowns that one week, was more points than this. But Josh Allen with the number two output in any given week, and Jalen Hurts, I think was the number four or number five output on the year. So just absolutely, battle of Goliaths in this game, and Hurts barely comes out on top. But super fun game to watch. Great for fantasy football too. All of the people that we want to see go off, pretty much got there. What were your takeaways from this, and were there any big surprises?
AJ Brown had a little bit of a quiet game. He still gets the touchdown, but without the touchdown, it's not a great game for him. But he gets the lion's share of targets at 9 targets there. He'll bounce back next week. Not worry about that. I had a question for you though. Your boy Gabe Davis, is he every week start now? We've been talking about he's always like the boom and bust guy who knows what's going on, but after he's had a few solid games. Is he just you start him every week and hope he's good now?
No.
I was wondering. I was
No.
wondering. Yeah.
So like I think I've said it a couple times on the show. My theory with Gabe Davis is if you drafted Gabe Davis, you either don't draft Gabe Davis and forget about him, or you
That's what I
draft
did.
him and you have to play him every week. Like you can't try to say like, oh, good matchup, let me play him. Bad matchup. No, it doesn't work like that. It's if I think it all has to do with the Bills scheme that game, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like some games, Gabe Davis looks like he has no clue how to play football, and the other games he is like unguardable. It is so odd. Um, I don't think I can explain it. I don't think you can explain it. I don't think anyone can explain it. I don't even know if the Bills can explain it. He's probably the most frustrating fantasy player in the league.
He's definitely up there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We also see our boy Kincaid have an okay game. Nothing crazy, but he does get 5 receptions. We still like to see all those targets, all those receptions going on. And then James Cook is still working a good role there. 6 receptions, get 57 yards. He still gets all the rushing. Um, he doesn't get a rushing touchdown or a touchdown, which is a little disappointing, but
Good game
you're
in
still happy with
PPR.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to see James Cook get the targets and the catches. Without looking through his box scores for the whole year, I can guarantee this is the most targets and catches he had on the season. We've always been a little disappointed that they didn't get the ball to him in the receiving game a little bit more. Hopefully that's turning around for them, because absolutely dynamic player, dynamic athlete, need to get the ball to him in space. Um, yeah, I mean,
Bills fans, yeah. Bills always lose the best games of the year. They have so many best games that they lose,
the
and it's you're just
Minnesota
like,
game
oh,
last year,
yeah,
Minnesota,
oh,
right?
there's so many. You could just go on and on, man. 22% to make the playoffs.
Yeah, dude,
That's tough.
the AFC is,
That's
I
tough.
don't know, um, wins in the AFC versus wins in the NFC, but I feel like the AFC is considerably better on the top end than the NFC this year. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard to
agreed.
make the playoffs in the AFC. Um, Yeah, you mentioned Kincaid. He's thrown up, several decent weeks in a row. I don't know where Dawson Knox is at with the injury. I would think at this point, by what Kincaid has shown, that even when Knox is healthy, he hopefully he wouldn't take too many targets away from Kincaid. But they're kind of different types of players, I think, a bit. So we'll see.
I could see
But
Knox taking red zone targets. He was always a red zone target for Josh Allen, which sucks, but I could see that happening.
Yeah, he was never a
But
target hog, right? He was always
no,
kind of like the two catches for, 20 yards and a touchdown
and
kind
a
of guy.
touchdown. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's flip it over to the Philly side of the ball. You already mentioned DeAndre Swift had a pretty good game, looked really good doing it. And he's your, buy candidate
Yep.
if you're a playoff team and you need a running back. Jeremy said that DeAndre Swift is at the top of his list for someone he's trying to go add right now.
Yeah, he's just got a great playoff schedule. And that's what you want to go after is guys that have a great lineup in the playoffs and can just push you into the championship and win. Bills fans saying it was like I guess Kincaid dropped a sure touchdown. Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. It Yeah, it was in that rain, you can't catch them
It
all, right? I
was. I
mean,
forgot about that. Yeah, it was
pretty
coming down.
sure I think Stefan Diggs had a uncharacteristic drop on a like a 15-yard pass too, if I remember seeing that. Um my main takeaway from the Phillies side of the ball is Devonta Smith. Ever since Dallas Goddard got hurt 3 weeks ago, Devonta Smith is on an absolute heater. So there's something about the way this offense is set up where AJ Brown was really thriving when Goddard was on the field. And I guess like bringing the safeties down a little bit or really like controlling the what the middle linebacker does. But when Dallas Goddard is out, Devonta Smith just absolutely eats. This was last year too. This has been an
Yeah.
ongoing
I was just
thing.
gonna say last year we saw it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, note to self, when Goddard is out, which is going to be at least another week or two, Devonta Smith has kind of sort of been their wide receiver one. I think he outscored AJ Brown last year when Goddard missed, and then we're seeing it again this year. Not that you'd
Yeah.
ever remotely consider benching AJ Brown or not starting him as your wide receiver one, but
He's still gonna get
um,
his. Yeah.
just something to note. I personally think that Devonta Smith is like the best wide receiver buy right now. Even if you have to pay really high for him, his matchups in week 16 and 17, which is the semifinals and finals, are just absolute chef's
Yeah.
kiss. So I am trying to buy Devonta Smith everywhere I can. I'm even willing to overpay for him. So players I would give up for Devonta Smith since
Yeah.
let me see. Let's see here. I would trade Puka and way more. I would trade Devonta Adams.
Yep.
I would trade Ridley and more. Um,
Cooper Cup
I,
with
dude,
the injury stuff and
I would
everything.
trade three Cooper Cups for Cooper Cup. Hey, we're
All
not
right.
covering that game. We're
How
not
about
covering that
Derrick
game.
Henry?
Well, it
That's
would depend.
close.
It would depend on my running back need, but
All
in
right.
a PPR league, I think, yeah, no problem. I would trade DJ Moore for him. Um,
Nico
actually,
Collins.
I'm gonna mic drop you real quick. I would trade Jamar Chase. I would trade Jamar
Whoa.
Chase for Devonta Smith in redraft right now.
Wow.
No Joe Burrow for the rest of the year. That offense is not gonna get it done. I want Devonta Smith over Jamar Chase rest of year. If you have Jamar Chase and you're going to make the playoffs, go trade him for Devonta Smith tonight.
Yeah. Oh, also, I missed it. Bills fan said it was Cook that dropped the touchdown. I saw that one. I have James Cook on multiple teams, and I was like, no, it was right there. Oh, yeah, I did see that one. Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
was rough.
So
But yeah,
let me see.
Devontae Smith, great target for the playoffs and going forward, redraft. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's all we have for Philly. I will say that with Dallas Goddard out, I mean, I like the way Philly rolls for fantasy a lot better. I mean, Hertz does better, Swift does better, Devonta does better, and targets are
Yeah,
always going to be there for AJ Brown. So um, we kind of talked about this with the 49ers before. When you have really good offenses and they have one injury from one of their main players, you usually see the rest of the offense perform even better in fantasy.
yep, very
Okay.
true.
All right. So
Speaking of that, Keenan Allen.
yeah, right. I mean, he's yeah, onto our next game. Sunday night football. My Baltimore Ravens travel to the left coast and take on the LA Chargers and win by 10. The game was a little bit closer than this. They kind of scored at the end when they didn't really need to. They were kind of trying to run out the clock and accidentally scored a touchdown. Um, so this was a pretty close game, defensive battle the entire time, but my Ravens came out on top. And yeah, tell me what you saw from this game. Not a whole lot of big fantasy stats other than a couple players.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, Keenan Allen. Everybody's hurt. Some other players do really well. We have Mike Williams out. We got Josh Palmer out. Keenan Williams. Keenan Allen is gonna
Mhm.
feast, and he does. 14. He's just reception hog. 14 receptions for 106 yards. Doesn't get a touchdown. Doesn't matter when you have that many receptions and yards going. Um, Eckler though, really disappointing. He's 5 receptions for 30 yards, which isn't bad, but only 32 yards on the ground. Of course, the Ravens are an amazing defense. You got to factor that in. But the Chargers' offense as a whole, with except for Keenan Allen, just hasn't looked good for a while now. Except for him. Um, on the other side of the ball, the Ravens, as Isaiah Likely, I did not think he was going to have as much a role as he did. Not that he had like a huge role, but 6 targets, 4 receptions for 40 is kind of more than I thought. I didn't think he would just like step into Mark Andrews' spot. I kind of thought we would see some of the other guys uh, take over instead. I wanted to see what the question I want to ask you about was Keaton Mitchell. What are your thoughts on this situation brewing there?
So he's RB1 now, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he led the backfield in snaps and touches, I believe. And dude, does he look good? I mean, you can't watch like this guy passes the eye test just with flying colors. He's just absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. I think he has now proved his point 3 games in a row. Every time he touches the ball, it's like a touchdown waiting to happen. We'll see if he can stay healthy. He's undersized. One of those, dynamic, get you in space backs. He's never going to be a 20 touch per game person, but that's okay. Um, dare I say, coming out of the bye, they'll probably try to incorporate him even more. John Harbaugh said prior to this game, even though he looks so good, the reason that they didn't give him more touches is because he is an undrafted free agent rookie and he just simply didn't know the whole playbook. And they had certain play calls just for him. And
yeah.
that's what he knew. So if there was only 7 or 8 plays, he knew, well, guess how many touches he was getting? 7 or 8. It didn't matter. So I think coming out of the bye, I think Keaton Mitchell's a sneaky little buy for like a RB3 type, or like a flex two type of play. Um, I like it a lot.
Well, how about this? After the bye, they get the Rams, which you can put up points against. They get the Jaguars, you can put up points against. Then they get the Niners and the Dolphins, so not great for fantasy playoff purposes there, but still, it's things can happen for him. It's he could be an interesting little pickup on somebody's team, desperate for a running back. If he's sitting there, who knows?
So I can't wait for the Ravens to play the Dolphins because for some reason the last 2 times they played the Dolphins, there's been like 80 points scored in each game. Like both offenses just go bananas when they play each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Will you be at that one? It's in
what
Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore. That's on
Yeah.
New Year's Eve. Yeah,
It's oh geez, it is. Yeah, New Year's Eve.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a one
New Year's
o'clock
Eve.
game though, but New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, might have to. But yeah, Keaton Mitchell versus Devon A Chain, the like two smallest, fastest running backs um, that
Right.
are rookies
Yeah.
this year. So that'll be fun to watch. Um, my main takeaway for the Ravens is they just hit a home run with Zay Flowers in this draft. Um,
Yeah.
guy is just ridiculously good. He has, pretty much instantly inserted himself from week 1 as wide receiver one. There's been a couple weeks that he had down weeks, but um, he's just got way more shiftiness, speed, you know, hands than anyone on this team. Even with Odell Beckham looking better the past couple weeks, he's actually getting healthy from that knee. With Mark Andrews out, Zay Flowers is only going to get more and more involved in this offense. So, um, love to see it. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, and just looked great doing it. So, yeah, definitely glad that they drafted Zay Flowers over Quentin Johnston, and probably glad they drafted, Jackson Smith and Jigba was already taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. I agree. He looks great. You love to see him get that long rushing touchdown. I mean, it's just it's just cool that they're using him in that way. Anytime like a team does that, it's like a Debo situation, right? Where it's just extra points for your guy.
That was
So
the play
yeah,
that
that
iced
was
the
cool.
game. That was the
Yeah,
play that iced the, yeah, that
yeah,
was like, I don't know if it was on
just took
second or
off.
third down, but yeah, he just took it to the house. They were like, I guess a lot of the players were giving him shit because he should have went down at the one, but whatever.
He's a rookie. He wants that touchdown, 2 touchdown game. Just give it to him. That
Yeah.
gives him a 2 score lead. They're not going to do anything. It's fine. It's fine.
Right.
But yeah, we didn't talk about Quentin Johnson too much. He's just done, right? Like for this year anyway. You
Hmm.
can't start him. He's not even worth the bench spot at this point. Um, just drop him for anyone else.
Dude, it's like man, you hate to call someone a bust after 3 months
Half a season, yeah.
of their life, but he just looks terrible. And for as many injuries, like if you would have told me, all right, Herbert's going to have a pretty decent year, um, Mike Williams is going to get hurt immediately, Josh Palmer is going to get hurt, and Austin Eckler is going to suck. What's Quentin Johnston going to do? I would say wide receiver 20 on the year, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he's
contending
just,
for rookie of the year. Like, yeah,
yeah, but he's had every opportunity in the world. Like, literally, this could not have been set up better for him, and
no.
he's done nothing. This is like a Brashad Perriman situation.
Yeah, it's rough. It happens. We see it every year where a top prospect, wide receiver prospect, is not what everybody thought they were going to be.
Hmm. And it's typically like the big, like, juiced up specimen of a wide receiver, right? That just doesn't pan out.
Yeah,
Oh well. Well, I'm sure I hate judging a 21-year-old kid like this, but yeah, he's not ideal. I also think the Chargers head coach, his days are limited. Um,
yeah.
the
If they don't make the playoffs, he's got to be gone, right?
and I think to make the playoffs, they're pretty much going to have to win out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brandon Staley, nice knowing you. Um, you're way too aggressive, and stop going for it on every fourth down ever. I remember that. Yeah, the Chargers played the Ravens like, I don't know, 3 years ago, and Brandon Staley went for it on like 9 fourth downs, and the Ravens just crushed him. Whatever. It
Makes
shows
no
that
sense.
not all of the young offensive genius has head coaches work out.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that completes our game recaps. So let's talk real quick, because fantasy playoffs do start in week 14, which is in 2 weeks. What trades are you trying to get done? You already mentioned you wanted to go after DeAndre Swift. I already mentioned that I want to go after Devonta Smith. We both picked Eagles players. Anyone else you're kind of looking at that you're trying to make a trade for as you're gearing up for the fantasy playoffs?
Not particularly. I feel like I've already kind of made my moves. I don't think there's anyone else I'm like looking super hard at right now. Top of my head.
I'll throw
Um,
one out.
yeah,
Just people I don't want to name like super obvious ones
yeah,
because, but I'll say one that I think it's a player. He's been off the radar this year because of injury concerns and just other players on his team performing much better. But I'll say, like, I'm trying to buy Debo Samuel. Um,
yeah,
it's kind of been the year of Brandon Ayuk and obviously Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is just, I mean, far and away by many, many points per game better than the next best running back. So he's not really leaving a lot of crumbs for everyone else. And Ayuk is having a great year. Kittle is having a great year. I think Kittle is like tight end 3 on the year. But Debo Samuel, now healthy, has put up a couple decent games in a row. And we were talking about this the last show we did. The 49ers the 49ers schedule through the rest of the season is absolute Swiss cheese. It is just ready to be
yeah.
taken care of. So, um, yeah, I'm all in on Debo Samuel as a
Yeah.
trade target.
I did forget. I do have one. Broncos. The Broncos are not great, but their passing game has looked pretty good lately, and their matchups the rest of the season are not bad. They get Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers to end the fantasy championship. And for passing situation, Cortland Sutton seems to be the guy there. Everyone was hoping it would be Jerry Judy. It hasn't happened.
Dude, Jerry
So
Judy sucks.
yeah, I right. I don't know what went wrong there. He was great. Um, but Sutton, yeah, I think he could maybe even be gotten cheap. Teams might not need him. He might be on somebody's bench. If you need a wide receiver to start, he's a target to go after, I think.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I
then
like that.
Yeah, and then I've got a few waiver wire guys if we want to run through some waiver wire stuff too.
Yeah, I'll just name one more trade target.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how gettable he is, but his schedule down the stretch is really good. Um, Bijan Robinson. I can't. I probably can't name three running backs that I'd rather have straight up more than him rest of the year. Um, it's kind of been obvious
DeAndre
that
Swift.
you
Sorry,
think.
no, keep going. I'd
Would
rather have
you?
DeAndre Swift. It'd be close.
Okay.
It'd be really close. I'd be really close. But
Okay.
yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
that's fair. I mean, I'm trying to
yeah.
think honestly. So the obvious answer is
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, yeah.
Another probably obvious answer is Travis Etienne.
Yes,
Um,
ETN. Yeah.
Probably Josh Jacobs.
Eckler's in the discussion there. I think they'll turn things around and he'll get the ball again. He could still be the top guy going forward. It's just it's hard when he's had such bad performance fantasy wise.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah.
say, how about this? Any running back not named Christian McCaffrey, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, or DeAndre Swift, we would trade straight up for Bijan Robinson right now
Yeah,
in redraft. Okay,
definitely.
that's fair. So he's
Trying to
like,
think who would be like Kyron Williams is back. Trade him. There's people like him. Jameer Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Brees Hall,
so you're just are so you're
Barkley.
not a Kyron believer. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I am. I think he's going to be great. I think Bijan has a better chance to be better.
I agree.
Uh,
Agree.
yeah.
What about
Uh,
Brees Hall?
yeah. No, I'd rather have Bijan than Brees Hall.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're firmly on Bijan RB4 or 5 rest of
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
any running back not named McCaffrey, Etienne, Jacobs, DeAndre
Maybe.
Swift. Let's
Oh no,
trade
I'd
straight up.
trade Jacobs. I'd trade Jacobs.
You would
I
trade
think.
Jacobs for okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
Vegas is
definitely
too like
because they
yeah. Yeah.
that's actually dude, super sharp move. Let's talk about this real quick. Josh Jacobs on Las Vegas, one of the few teams that haven't had their bye yet. It's in week 14. This is a
Mhm.
super sharp move, and you have to be playing with people that are pretty dumb for this to actually work. But if you can trade anyone on a team that has a bye in week 13 or 14 for a player that's even close to them that has already had their bye, you just need to do it, right? So, yeah, I think that's actually a great point. Josh Jacobs is probably a great sell right now because he has a bye week 14. So that's what not week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, but it's the last week before the fantasy
Yeah.
playoffs.
Last week
So
before the fantasy house. Yeah.
if
Which is a rough
you
time to have a bye, man.
if you are on the cusp of making the playoffs or on the cusp of getting that 1 seed, or you absolutely need, these last 2 wins, I think Josh Jacobs is a definite trade. So
Yeah.
definitely look to move him for someone like DeAndre Swift, Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs, maybe even Tony Pollard, something like that.
Yeah. And then we missed a comment. The truck reviewer is saying hashtag cut Cam. If we're talking about the cut list, yeah, Cam Maker's on the cut list. It's unfortunate. He was doing well in Minnesota. I think we saw. I assume this you're talking about Cam Akers. We're seeing him getting more and more touches, more involved. It's sad to see him, just be done.
Then we just have
Leo,
a random
Leo,
comment that says Leonard
Leonard
Fournette.
Fournette, Leo Foreskin, yeah.
Yeah, I call him Fat Lenny, but yeah,
I'm surprised he never made it on a team this year.
no, he's on
Is
the
he
Bills,
anywhere?
dude. He's on the Bills.
Wait, he is on the Bills. Oh,
He's on their practice
is he
squad.
practice squad? Right? Okay, yeah, he's
Yeah,
not. That
mhm.
doesn't count. Come on, that doesn't really count.
Dude, they're saving him for the playoffs. I can see it
No,
now.
playoff
The
Letty, playoff Letty coming back again.
playoff Lenny. There you go, Jeremy. So Christopher said, "Will he play?" Jeremy says, "Yes, he'll play, and he will be playoff
Playoff
Lenny."
Lenny.
Yep.
He is playoff Lenny. That's when he's the best. Everyone knows, including the Bills. They're just
Latavius
saving
Murray,
him.
sit your ass down. Playoff
Yeah.
Lenny's in.
As soon as he will not be on the team, and then they're gonna squeak into the playoffs, and then they bench Latavius Murray for Leo, and he just goes nuts. It's gonna be
Yep.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Josh Allen will hurt his shoulder again, and they'll call Tom Brady. Tom Brady, playoff Lenny will get back
Playoff
together.
Lenny comes. Yeah.
Man, this could
That's
be
what
a movie.
happens.
Yeah.
This could be a movie. Yeah.
All right. So thanks you guys for coming and hanging out. See, some of you are live in the channel. If you have any last second questions for Jeremy and I, we'll do trade questions, sit starts, any questions about football in general. Go ahead and ask them. We'll be on for about 5 more minutes. We're gonna run through some waiver wire real quick. So Jeremy, who you got for waiver wire this week? Let's start at quarterback.
I don't really have a quarterback this week. Because I feel like most of them are already picked up.
Dude, I need a quarterback because Lamar's on
Yeah.
bye. You got to help me out.
Joe
Who am I?
Flacco, bro. Uh, no, I
Let's
guess Ritter would be a guy. He runs, So like
rough times.
in a two QB league, I've used him for matchups.
Oof, rough
Um,
times.
that's trying to think who else is going to be on your waiver wire there. If
How about
Zappy starts over Mac Jones,
dude, in one QB leagues we can do better than this. How about like maybe Russell Wilson if we're lucky?
he's on a team. Somebody's got him
Will
on a team,
Levis? I
right?
mean, I'm doing
Yeah.
Levis over Ritter.
Levis over all those guys I mentioned. Yeah, I agree with
Okay.
that. But yeah, it's rough out there for the QB waiver wire, man. I gotta say.
Okay.
Um,
So QB, if you have Lamar Jackson or who else is on bye this week besides the Ravens? I don't really remember. But yeah.
is Vegas
Ru-
on by?
no, they're next week. They're week 14.
Oh, right, you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have Lamar Jackson, yeah, good luck. Maybe go with the stash Gardner Minshew. Pretty good matchup at Tennessee. Yeah, I like Minshew will be my pickup if I had Lamar. Okay, so on to running back. Besides Zach Moss, because Zach Moss, we all agree Zach Moss is like the absolute slam dunk. Spend all your
Yep.
money, use your number one waiver, right? All the above
Yes.
if he's
Also, Vegas
available.
is on by this week. It's week 13 for Vegas. You're
Okay.
thinking Arizona's week 14. That's what you're
Okay.
thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, for
Well,
running backs, Zach Moss, spend it all, get him. Him aside, though, Roshan Johnson for the Bears, right?
so what's he been doing lately? Tell me about him. I haven't really been keeping up with them.
So Deontay Foreman was out this game. Khalil Herbert's back in the mix. Roshan's in the mix. Roshan just seems to be more of the pass catching guy, which is what you want. And we're hoping he's the rookie. We're hoping he kind of like emerges a little bit more each week as they go along. Um, and so I have him kind of ahead of the next couple running backs, and the other running backs, same ones you and I mentioned before. Basically, at this point, you're looking to grab guys that can be the guy if something happens. So like my top two guys here, Rico Dowdle on the Cowboys, and then Elijah Mitchell for the Niners. Because if Pollard or McCaffrey go down, you have those guys sitting on your bench for the playoffs.
Nice. I'll
Yeah,
also throw in that same vein, Tajay Spears,
yeah,
um, and maybe AJ Dillon. He
yeah.
hasn't
Well, yeah.
actually.
I don't think he's available, but yeah, because
Okay. Yeah.
Aaron Jones is out. I think.
Oh,
Uh,
is he out now?
yeah, that's one of the questions we had earlier. He said Aaron Jones was out. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why he was having trouble picking up running back. Yeah.
Cool. I'll give one more that we just haven't mentioned yet. We kind of talked about it earlier. For some reason, I'm just feeling it this week. Antonio Gibson. If you're in a pinch, I know
Don't do it.
you're a
Don't do it.
Commanders fan. I get it, but
Don't do
I
it.
at home
No.
against the Dolphins, it's going to be a negative game script. He's been
You're
getting a
hoping
lot of
he falls
passing
into
work.
the end zone. That's all
Nah,
you're hoping
passing
for.
work, dude. I'm
No,
telling you.
it's not going to be enough.
All right, Antonio Gibson, 4 more receptions this week. I'm calling it.
Under.
All
Maybe
right,
at four. At four
fine.
for like 5 yards. Four for
Only
five
if you're
yards.
only if you're really desperate, I guess. But Chris
Super
likes
desperate.
Antonio Gibson this week.
Hold on, where's I'm trying to think who I would start over into. I would start Dowdle over Gibson. Zeke
Oh
over Gibson.
no, you would not.
Davian
Stop
Pierce
lying
and
to
Algier. Algier over
No,
Pierce. Yeah.
you're lying to yourself, dude. Stop.
Spears over Gibson. Spears gets more
How
work
about
than
this?
Gibson
This is the
does.
ultimate test because I know how much you hate him. Would you start Antonio Gibson or Miles Sanders?
Yeah, Antonio Gibson there.
There we go.
Yeah.
The breaking point.
Yeah,
We've reached
yeah,
the
Antonio.
breaking point.
Yeah.
Just another random question. Doesn't really have to do with waiver wire, but it just has to do with kind of interesting situation. Rest of season, who scores more points, Jalen Warren or Najee Harris?
That's tough. Um, I think I'll go Najee. He's looked good. They've been giving him the ball a little more, but I, I could see it going either way. Warren gets more of the passing work nowadays. They're both kind of every week starts at this point. If you have them,
I
you're starting one of them.
I agree. This week, especially, they have the best possible matchup at
Mm.
home against Arizona. I am starting Jalen Warren over um, Javante Williams this week,
Yeah,
and I'm also starting him over, gosh, it was over Puka
yeah.
because
I think Warren is a good trade target if you need a running back. We were talking about trade targets. I think owners could be frustrated because last week he didn't perform well. It could be, and maybe he's also sitting on somebody's bench, and you need a running back. He's the guy you could go after and maybe get cheap.
yeah, agree with that. Really like him. He's been solid pretty much all year long. Um, and one since we're talking about running back trading targets, one I wanted to bring up earlier, just because I think he's a good trade target as like an back end RB2 that I think no one really values as much as they should. Just because he's been much better lately is Ramondre Stevenson. New England has a very unsexy, slow, pathetic, terrible offense. Zeke has been slowly phased out of this offense 3 weeks in
Oh
a
yeah,
row now. Ramondre Stevenson has got more and more touches the last 3 weeks. He's back to his bell cow role that he really had at the end of the year last year. He's like seems like one of he's so Ramondre Stevenson, super big running back, right? Like big, like almost in that Derrick Henry mold, but has the receiving abilities too.
yeah.
So I'm thinking like New England football, weather gets cold, Zeke's tired now. Like, let's run Ramondre. He's had a couple nice games in a row. Even though their offense sucks, I like him as a buy low.
He's the only good part of the offense, and
Yeah.
that's what you want. Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Wide receivers. You have any wide receiver waiver wire targets?
Yeah, we saw Jalen Hyatt with the Giants have a little bit of a breakout. Now, do I trust any of the Giant offense? No, but Saquon a little, I guess.
They're on bye this week.
But he's still,
Yeah, they're on bye this
yeah,
week.
yeah, they are. So Hyatt's like a sneaky pickup for going forward. You never know. We like to pick up rookies who perform well. It's just a good strategy. Um, Jameson Williams with Detroit, he's looking good. He might still be sitting on your waiver wire somewhere. You never know. Um, we've talked about Khalil Shakir before. He's kind of getting some more work for the Bills there, so I think he could be a stash. Again, we're getting kind of deep here, um, and that's kind of all I have for wide receivers.
Uh, they're on bye too, right?
Yeah,
Or
Bills are on
Bills
bye.
on bye? Yeah. Oh, so that's the
The
other team. I knew
13.
there's a couple of teams on bye.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, man. I'm trying to think. You took Shakir. I was going to talk about him.
yeah, yeah.
They have a pretty good schedule rest of way, so I like that a lot. Um, Here's someone that's probably not available in your league, but he could be just because it's not a sexy name. Jaden Reed. Um, he's
Yeah.
just many, many weeks in a row of good production and or touchdowns. There's kind of hasn't been an alpha in that offense all year. Um, it hasn't been Watson, it hasn't been Dubs. It's kind of been Jaden Reed. So I don't know if he's available. I definitely like him as a back end flex play.
Yeah, we saw Watson actually come back and be fantasy relevant last week, but it kind of looks like going forward it's going to be Watson and Jaden Reed over Dobbs and the other guys and Wicks. Um, I love Jaden Reed. He was one of my targets at the beginning of this year as a rookie, and I think he's going to be solid for Green Bay going forward.
Cool. Yeah, I'm with you there. All right. So tight end. Before we talk about like exact tight end pickups that you want to make, I just think it's interesting that remember like after the first 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, like no tight ends were scoring any points at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, it's the
And na-
worst,
and
except for Kelsey.
now except for Kelsey, right? And
Yeah.
now it feels like um, there's 15 tight ends that you could start and be really happy with it. I don't know how that happened, but like so at the beginning of the year, I felt like all my teams, unless I had Kelsey, which I don't really, I was like, well, shit, what do I do? And now I have so many lineup decisions because I have two or three really
Yeah.
strong tight ends, like especially on my dynasty teams and such.
I think we've learned it's, every year take Kelsey or wait and take somebody super late. Like take two or three guys super late if you got the space on the bench for it. And that's just the way to go. And just like stream your tight end if you don't have Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
That should be
I,
the
I
strategy every year going forward.
I think so, but here's the problem: is starting next year, Kelsey's probably still going to be your 1A, right? And you'll have the Andrews and the
Andrews will be
Kittle,
right there.
right?
Yeah.
But then are the guys like Laporta and McBride, are they really going to fall down the draft? No. Like they're going to
No, well,
be.
see, that's the problem though. That's why you pass on them because
Yeah.
if you're taking Laporta in the say the third round or whatever, who are you missing out on? You're missing out on an alpha wide receiver where you could get a Laporta maybe later in the draft or a Kincaid later in the draft is going to perform pretty close to where those other tight ends are. So that's where I think it's you take Kelsey or you wait and take somebody super late.
Yeah. I'll say that this year it was kind of a changing of the guard when it comes to rookie tight ends and just young tight ends in general. People have always said, it takes, 2, 3, 4 years for a tight end to really hit their stride. That's no
Yeah.
longer true. That's false now. Sam Laporta just absolutely dominating. He's on pace to set rookie tight end yardage record, I believe. Beating, I think he's on track to beat Mike Ditka's record um, for rookie tight end yardage.
Ingram was up there too. Ingram had like a really good
Ingram,
rookie.
he had a
Yeah.
great rookie year, but his
Yeah.
he had a lot of touchdowns too.
Yeah.
And Pitts had a good rookie year.
Yeah. Pitts had a
And
great
just
rookie
has
year.
sucked since then. But yeah,
Arthur Smith.
between Laporta having a good rookie year, McBride is technically a sophomore, but he didn't really play last year, so McBride's been good. The Green Bay tight end, who I can't think of his name at the moment.
Musgrave.
Yeah, Luke
Our boy
Musgrave. Yeah,
Ferguson,
yep,
who
yeah.
we were
So
talking up. Yeah.
Pat Fryermuth still young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the young guys are breaking out earlier than they typically would in the past.
And that's who I've got at top of the tight end pickup
Pat
this week is
Fryermuth.
Pat Fryermuth because people dropped him. He was hurt and
Hmm.
he came back and exploded. I grabbed him in one league on like waivers or something because he was just like sitting there last week and I didn't start him, but he just went crazy. Um, and after him, I've got the only other tight end I've got is Jawan Johnson. Just New Orleans having all kinds of injury trouble right now.
Oh
Rashad
yeah,
Shaheed has like a quad injury, I think it said. And then you've got
Olave.
Olave with a concussion. We're hoping he plays, but lately with concussion, it seems like they're almost guaranteed to miss one game and then come back with concussion protocol. But you never know.
Yeah, you're right. Juwan Johnson might be second in targets behind
Yeah,
Kamara, right?
exactly.
um,
Yeah, Kamara's going to just feast on targets this week.
and
Yeah,
Detroit defense has been shit lately.
yeah.
That it might be kind of a decent spot for the New Orleans offense if anyone dresses for them. I was listening to a couple fantasy shows today just on my commute, and I heard like 3 or 4 questions about A.T. Perry. If
Yeah,
you're not really into football, you have no idea who A.T. Perry is.
I just picked him
He's
up.
he's a rookie wide receiver for
Yeah.
the Saints that has not really played this year, but could be the number one wide receiver for them this week. So pretty interesting stuff here in New Orleans, but proves your point even more firm. Juwan Johnson's a solid play this week against Detroit. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't really
Yeah,
have
do you
any.
have any guys? Yeah.
I mean,
There aren't a ton. There aren't a ton this week
there's
for wide
not
receivers
there's one person I picked up, but
or
he
tight ends
probably
rather.
shouldn't be available. But for some reason, David Njoku was available in one of my leagues. Um,
You
he
never
hasn't.
know. Everyone has a home league where like the waiver wire is crazy sometimes. Like
Yeah, I mean, like Njoku's like he's fine. He's been what is he, like tight end 9 or 10 on the year? He's not like setting
yeah,
the world on fire, but lately he's been really solid. So we did say earlier, we're never going to start someone from Cleveland, but my theory is always like if it's a new quarterback, the first person they look to is tight end and running back checkdowns, and we
Yeah,
know Joe
short
Flacco
pass over the middle.
loves Joe Flacco
Yeah,
loves checkdowns. See Ray Rice, see Todd Heap,
yeah, very true.
or Dennis Pitta. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I've
cool.
got a quick defense ad. Uh, it's a little out there, but if you're desperate, the Rams get the Browns. So we don't know who's starting at quarterback there. That could be a good defensive ad. You got to think they're going to get a bunch of sacks and probably
Yeah,
some picks.
I was actually waiting to talk to you about this because if you look at the Rams and how they've performed this year, depending on your defensive scoring settings, they're anywhere from the worst defense, number 32. I've seen them like number 30 or 31. It really depends on your
Yeah,
settings.
no, they're bad. Yeah,
But moral of the story is they suck, right? They
yeah.
do not produce points as a fantasy defense. So what do you do in situations like this where you have an epic matchup?
Yeah.
Rams are at home against just a reeling Cleveland offense. Do you
Like I
just
said, if you're desperate, if you got nobody
okay?
else, if your other matchups are terrible, your waiver wire has no good defenses on there. I just think it's one of those matchups where they could just obliterate the Browns. It could be a bunch of picks, a bunch of sacks. It could be bad, and that even if it's a high scoring game, if they get enough sacks and picks, you'll get enough points to be okay.
Yeah, this Rams versus Cleveland game kind of feels like a 23-10 Rams win, and one of those is a defensive touchdown, like something like that, right?
I hope Puka just goes crazy. I want to see it again.
Dude,
I
he's
miss Puka scoring points for me.
well, to do it against Cleveland isn't a good place to start. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Denzel Ward and the rest of those good guys.
No, they got a good defense.
Yeah,
But
for sure. So the defense that I've been picking up this week because the Rams are available in probably 95% of leagues, just
yes,
because they suck all year.
yeah,
But they're probably going to be the hottest pickup just because they have the best matchup. I have been choosing to pick up the Colts instead, where they're available.
yep,
The Colts in most leagues are ranked like the number 8 or 9 defense on the year thus far, and they're playing Tennessee, who we know their offense is pretty much non-existent. The ghost of Derrick Henry and Will Levis trying to figure out how to play quarterback. Just not worried about Tennessee doing a whole lot. And the Colts have put up a lot of points, especially in the last 3 weeks. So my pick of the week is Colts.
I should have mentioned too with the Rams, their fantasy playoff games: Commanders, Saints, Giants. They're
That's pretty
usable.
great.
They're usable. That's what I'm
We're
saying.
about to see the Rams get hot, aren't we?
Yeah, the defense anyway. They just get
Don't
a
let
bunch
the
of
Rams get
sacks.
hot. Yep.
Yeah, just get a bunch of sacks.
Good point. Good point. You might be able to pick them up this week and use them
Yeah,
3 other weeks too. Yeah, we'll see. Not the same Rams of old, right? With prime Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and all that good stuff.
true.
Hmm. Let me see. Who plays the Jets? Atlanta.
The Jets get yeah.
So I like Atlanta too.
Yeah, they're another sneaky ad for this
Tim
week.
Boyle probably not going to light you up.
Probably worse than Zach Wilson. Let's be honest. Like
What?
it was like, hey, anyone is better than Zach Wilson. Here's Tim Boyle. Okay, except for that guy. Like anyone except that guy is better than Zach Wilson. Uh,
Do you okay?
it just it's a struggle for Garrett Wilson, right?
True or false? Zach Wilson gets a little bit unfairly judged. I mean,
False.
you think he's that bad?
He's bad, man. He's got so many weapons. He's had so many opportunities. He
So
doesn't
many
have it. He's not
weapons.
good.
Besides Garrett Wilson is Alan Lazard.
Brees Hall.
Okay. But like, okay, I get it. He's not good, but it's
He had Elijah
everyone
Moore too.
everyone acts like Zach Wilson is like the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's not up for debate. And that's just simply not true.
No, that's not. Well, he's pretty bad though.
I just think, I mean, he's probably better than most of these backups that are playing right now. He's better than Tim Boyle. He's better than Bailey Zappi. Dare I say he's better than Mac Jones. He's better than Jake Browning. He's might be better than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett sucks. Um,
Pickett's better.
yeah, but it's close. I mean,
Brissett's
no,
better.
yeah,
Jacoby Brissett is better.
like it PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson Robinson, Desmond Ritter. None of like all of these guys I don't think have shown better than Zach Wilson. But
Ritter's
anytime
probably
Zach
better.
Wilson, you know what it is? It's the New York thing, right? It's the New
Yeah.
York thing. It's the
It's a tough
spotlight.
place to play. Yeah.
And he just makes TV and the analysts' mouths more often than Desmond Ritter does. That's,
Yeah.
I think, what it is.
And he likes moms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not faulting him for that. I mean, that makes me like him more.
No, I agree.
But anyway, jeez. I don't know. For some reason, I just have a soft spot for the guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good show, man. Gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys for hanging out. I see some of you out there hanging in the channel. Appreciate you guys. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna come back and do this next week. We'll be one step closer to the fantasy playoffs. Want to make sure you guys all make it and can get all your questions asked and answered. So thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you. And I will catch you next week. Good luck, everyone.
Later.
Bye.